Hello everybody, this is Brian from Breaking Down Security. Last week you heard us discuss with Ben Johnson from Brakesec about identity analytics. We talked about how it's being used in identity governance and administration. Some of the things we discussed was identity-related risk awareness, access certifications, role management and using RBAC properly, and leveraging things like two-factor and MFA and OAuth to make all of that so much easier. If you're interested in role-based access controls or identity management or MFA in this case, you might want to go back and check out part one. Both last week's and this week's is really a continuation of one another. So part two this week really has been a kind of something we've been talking about quite a bit on our Slack channel. We have a channel called Hanging the Shingle, and that's a euphemism for going out on your own, opening your own, being an entrepreneur, doing your own thing. And Ben definitely has done that in spades. He was one of the co-founders of Carbon Black, endpoint security company, and decided to leave Carbon Black and start Obsidian.Sec, which was a new company he'd started. So one of the topics that he was very passionate about was discussing what it takes to go from a large company like Carbon Black or like a big company back to a small company and building from scratch, building even a brand new technology, one that doesn't necessarily exist in the space that you're working in. So we kind of moved that into more like you're tired of working where you're at and you wanted to strike out on your own and try to, do pen testing or do consulting or do dev work or do PM work or what have you. So we talked a little bit about this week as a part of the continuation of last week's show, what it takes to start a new business, a way to become an independent consultant. How do you do it when you maybe don't have the reputation? How do you build the reputation? Obviously there's, some legal issues if you work at a consultancy and all of a sudden you strike out on your own as an independent consultant and or there's some legal issues there with, possibly poaching customers that were working at your other job. So we talk about some of that. We also get into some of the books that he's been reading recently. And one of the ones that I started picking up, and I think we mentioned it in the show, was one called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Dr. Carol S. Dweck. So we talk about how we're learning to fulfill our potential. And it talks about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets and always learning and trying to get where we need to be in life. And very interesting book. I've actually started reading it. I'm about 6 hours into it now, 8 hours into it now. So it's very, very interesting. I expect to talk about it in future podcasts. So what we started talking about is, what it took, where he got to, a little bit about his existing, thoughts about, striking out on his own and what it took to get where he is now. So, one thing before we go, we have some announcements. B-Sides Birmingham is CFP is still open till August 11th. If you are interested in doing that, I believe one of our moderators, David Sybuck, will be there. So if you're interested in going to a nice local grassroots information security conference, you can follow B-Sides Birmingham, Alabama. That's in Alabama, not in the UK for you UK folks, sorry. You can go to @BSidesBham on Twitter and follow that. And they have a B-Sides site as well on B-Sides Bham. You can look on Twitter and find that if you're interested. So again, if you want to speak there, CFP is open until August 11th. Tickets may go on sale shortly thereafter. So, all right, without further ado, here's part two of our interview with Ben Johnson. One of the things, so Ben's been with a few companies, a few startups. I was with a startup as well. We were like East Coast, West Coast mafia kind of stuff. I was, not anymore. It's all good. So one of the things that he also asked about, and something that we get on our Slack channel quite a bit, we have actually a dedicated channel. We call it Hang in the Shingle, where people are like, hey, I've worked as a company for X number of years, and I want to become an independent consultant, and or I want to start my own company, and I don't know how to do that. And we've got like Director of InfoSec, one of our moderators. She's an awesome lady, and she's set up her own company and everything. But I wanted to talk to Ben because he's now working at another successful company that he's helped build. What does it take to start a new business? How much does it take to actually, start your own business? Do you start small? I mean, what is a good mix of skills needed to start a company?
Well, I mean, this might sound trivial, but or oversimplifying it, but it really first starts with just saying I'm going to do it, right, and being serious about it, and saying, look, I'm going to take that first step. And a lot of people start that first step while still employed. And I don't mean in any sort of nefarious way or anything, right? But maybe you're working in one sort of area and you kind of get permission to sort of moonlight or do some other stuff, and you can start to flush out your ideas, and that way you're still, paying the bills a little bit easier and stuff like that. But, then it really takes a lot of, kind of tenacity or grit. Like you're gonna struggle. Like you're going to have to go through some challenges where you don't really have a safety net or a large team, especially if you're just kind of starting on your own or with a couple people. And it really does start with the people then, right? So it starts with yourself. Like, can you do it? And can you kind of live through the crazy roller coaster? But then who's that core team, or who's that co-founder, or who's that, early employee? Are they going to be able to say, you give them one ticket, or not even probably, but figuratively a ticket that says, figure out how to do this. It doesn't say like, go code this exact library. It says, figure out what we need to do here, or how to set up our infrastructure, or what language to write in, or whatever. Right. So it really takes a lot of people that can handle that sort of vagueness or that ambiguity, that really the chaos, the organized chaos. Hopefully it's organized, not just chaos. And then, you have to really be good at going out and talking to people, right? Networking and really trying to get those customers, trying to get partners. I can go more specific if you want into certain areas, but, a lot of it starts out with really figuring out what's the pain point you're trying to solve, and then going and talking to a bunch of people, getting some validation, and then figuring out how to build the tech. But a lot of times the two areas people struggle on are they're too focused on the tech and not enough on the kind of customer pain. Or similarly, they're just too inward focused. Like they're just, probably most technical people are introverts, and they, they're just focused on themselves, but they need to focus getting out there and giving talks and meeting people and things like that. And, depending on if you want to go the consultant route or like the sort of tech startup VC route, there's different, sort of pros and cons, and it takes different personalities. But, I think for the most part, there's so much opportunity, especially in cybersecurity, and so many companies need help. And especially if you want to do a consultancy, there's so many 100 person or even like 5 person, but let's say 100 person to like 2,000 person companies that don't have a security team, and they would love some consultancy to come in and help them and show them how to do the right thing and not crush them with a huge bill. Right. I think there's a lot of opportunity. So sorry, I'm starting to get excited, but I think it really starts with just saying, hey, I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Well, so just a little background. Since you've last talked to us, we've added a person, Miss Berlin. As I mentioned today, I couldn't even bother to fill her shoes.
Recently, it's been like 2 years now.
You're still the noob in the group. Just hush. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But Ms. Berlin, she set up a nonprofit. So that was something that she saw as a win, as something that was needed in the environment or in the community, and she had a good network.
Different because I don't have to live off those earnings.
That's fair, but you had a good network to start that with. Mr. Betcher, of course, started LogMD with Michael Goff. Michael's probably could try to sell ice to an Eskimo. He's definitely the salesperson and the mouth of the company in this case, in terms of sales. I'm running a conference and also set up a nonprofit because I saw fit that there was a lack of conferences in the Seattle area, and we needed yet another security conference because in this area. It does take quite a bit of networking and knowing people. You can't just be heads down for 10 years at a consultancy or at a blue team company or something and I just want to do this. It actually does take time and investment to do and to make happen.
Now I have a question about the whole VC thing. I've never had to do that, but I know people that work for companies that are going down that route. Do you have any, if you've done that, I don't know how you've started up all the stuff that you've done, but do you have any tips for VC tech startups?
Yeah.
In general?
Yeah. So I think first it starts with, if you can get referrals or get some guidance from others, similar to kind of, I think a lot of areas of just like the professional world. But, if you can talk to someone that you either have a strong relationship with, or at least you've met before and say, hey, who do you recommend I go talk to? You start to get, a little bit more guidance in terms of targeting, who do I go after? And then a lot of it comes down to that individual relationship. People say, oh, I raised money from this major. So yes, I've done it quite a few times now, but a lot of people say, oh, I raised money from this, this firm or this fund or whatever. And that's true, but usually it's that one person that took a shot on you, the partner that's basically sponsored you, joins your board, is connected to your company, that kind of thing. And you really have to have a good relationship there. Sometimes you just need money and you can't get a sort of a better alternative. So you have to take kind of whoever you can get. There's a lot of startups that have to do that just because they don't maybe win over their first choice or their fifth choice or whatever. And, usually everyone's different, but, I would say usually it's, if you really want to do your business, you don't have an alternative, you kind of have to make that decision of, do you take that money or not? But a lot of times you do get to have, some say in saying, look, we really want this person on our board and this firm and everything they offer, and they like you. And then, then it's kind of a nice match. It's like, dating or courtship. I think one thing I'll say is there is a sense in the kind of hardcore security community that sort of VCs are vultures and evil. And I don't think that's the case, right? I do think they add a lot of very positive stuff. I will say that when you're fundraising though, they'll take all the time you'll give them. And so you can just get inundated with meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And so you just have to be careful about not spending all your time on that, because you still have a business to run and tech to build and that kind of thing. So I can go on and on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be verbose, but I think go have some conversations, get some referrals, do some due diligence, impress them, spend some time, getting to know them as a person, and and then see if it works.
So, okay, you mentioned, a lot of us in security are introverts. Does it help to know what your limitations are and then try to find people that augment what you're not good at? Or does it actually make sense for you to try to become the salesperson, or to step out of your shell a little bit?
Both, but definitely more on the augmentation. So if you're the CEO and you're super introverted, I'm sorry, you're still going to probably have to go give some talks and do some stuff, right? That's just the way it is. Even if you're the CTO, you're going to have to do that stuff. And if you're the head salesperson, you're going to have to get somewhat technical, right? So, everyone's adjusting, but you still need to kind of maximize your strength and not spend too much time trying to become someone you're not. So that's why I say, definitely I like the question, augmentation, but also you're going to have to expand in certain areas, or people management. Maybe you started a company, you were a hardcore, sort of security engineer, and now you have a team of 50 people and you have to deal with personnel issues and stuff. Everyone's going to grow, but to your question, augmentation, but also some growth.
Right on. Mr. Betcher, you're awfully quiet. Since you're a company of two, at your current organization, do you have any questions?
Well, if you are moonlighting and you've been moonlighting for a while, I know this depends on the individual and their finances and all that, but when do you take the plunge? When do you finally say, all right, I'm going full time on what I've built here?
I think when, I mean, I don't know that there's the real answer, but it's like that catch-22, right? Because probably in your question, it's because there's that situation where there's some fear because you're not quite sure how you're going to, maybe make up the difference in income or whatever. But on the other hand, that's a forcing function. Like if you just do it, if you just say, you know what, this is the only way I'm going to, feed my family or pay my bills or whatever, it's going to force you to go get some more customers or do some more work or whatever. So, I think it's kind of like, hey, when you feel like, hey, look, I'm having fun and I think I'm moving in the right direction, like, maybe that's the right time. The other thing I'll say, and I absolutely don't mean to cause any confusion for people around employment, because I do know that some people in cyber struggle with employment, but in general, there's so much employment in cyber that I hope that encourages more people to take that shot, because most people, and again, I get it. Some people have a tremendously hard time getting work or getting employed to the level they feel that they should be at or whatever. So I don't mean to discount that. But because in general, most people can go get a job tomorrow in cyber if you needed it, absolutely, to like pay your bills, that should afford you more luxury to go try something, right? And that's really how I ended up. It was a little bit more to the story, but that's how I ended up at Carbon Black. Is I kind of just sort of left my job with nothing in sight. Because I wanted that uncertainty. I wanted to take some time to figure it out, and then ultimately, kind of Carbon Black came along, the idea for it and everything. But it was saying to my wife, saying, look, if I need to get a job tomorrow, I'll get a job tomorrow. Like if we truly go down that downhill and into like financial ruin, like we're not going to have that happen, because I will go get a job even if I hate it. But I need to take this shot. And so I think if a lot of you listening like consider that, like, look, are you very employable? And the answer is probably yeah. I think that should open up some doors for you.
Yeah. One question I want to ask is, depending on the company you work at, how important is it to look at the employment documents and make sure that things like, things you're doing on the side are not owned by the company, or making sure that you're making the delineation between work and your side jobs? How important is that to know upfront when you're starting a job? And, I've got the podcast here. When I started working at my other company that I was at, it was a handshake agreement between me and the CISO that, what I do on the side is my own thing. But and when I started working at Leviathan, I was like, look, when I work here, the podcast is the podcast. Leviathan is the Leviathan thing. And they're like, yes, no problem. Your IP is your IP. We don't control any of that. They have it written into their contracts. But a lot of companies don't have that opportunity. And if you do something on the side and they can prove even 1 minute of that work was done on company time, it's theirs. How do you got to set boundaries, right?
Yeah. And thank you very much for bringing that up. Absolutely, should look at your employment agreement. Go get a lawyer. Probably charge you only like an hour or two, which is still a lot of money. Like like $350 an hour or something like that. But we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars to like go review this thing, right? And get someone to review it, and then depending on that, assuming that it's not overly harsh, you still then want to go to the company and say, hey, look, can I get like a carve out where you guys explicitly give me something in writing that says I'm allowed to work on this, like this app or this tool that's very separate from my job or whatever, and then just get it in writing and don't have it be this secret hidden thing. Have it be there, and agreed upon. And then, sometimes there's ways that the existing company can benefit and they'll still let you keep the IP. I've seen that happen, right? Where then you get to kind of test it in your own environment. And so I've seen a lot of success stories there. And the same thing is with advisory boards, right? Like if you want to join an advisory board, you often have to get your existing or board of directors. You have to get your existing board or existing employer to sign off that, like, yes, you're allowed to go, help this other company and be on their advisory board and protect their IP and stuff like that. So I think just in general, thank you for the question, that, I think people should be a little bit cautious on the legal side and just, be a little bit more upfront with your your boss or the CEO or whomever, depending on the size of the company. I will say if you work for some major company, like probably like Amazon or Google or some big tech company, they're probably not going to let you do it because they want to own everything. So I don't know. I haven't worked for those companies, and maybe there's some great success stories there, but it's probably going to be a lot harder at those companies or any kind of major large company than a small company.
Understood. Yeah. So you mentioned advisory boards. Do you get invited to join advisory boards? Or do you actually petition people like, hey, I'd like, I think you're a good company and I'd like to sit on your advisory board. I noticed you have a position available. How does that work?
Yeah. I can only speak to really my experience, and then, my experience sort of inviting people to our advisory boards. But, a lot of times the invitation does come from the company, right? So if I'm on an advisory board, they ask me to join, but often it's, some way you kind of get brought together, and, it doesn't necessarily mean that the advisor can't suggest it, say like, hey, I'd actually love to spend some time with you guys, and I think I can, add value. What do you think? And, then they would sort of think about it and potentially invite you. So I think it can go both ways. But, certainly if you're kind of the one that's the advisor or the potential advisor and you're coming into the company, you have to show some value and show why you're going to, be worth adding to the advisory board. And then once you kind of have, maybe done some interesting things that people think would help their journey, then you're going to get the invitations.
Right. I'd like to remind everybody out there that I am available for invites to advisory board. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, no. All right. So, Mr. Betcher, Ms. Berlin, do you have any other thoughts or anything you'd like to ask? Because, we don't get somebody like Mr. Ben on here all the time. Mr. Betcher?
I'm trying to think. I there's things I want to ask, but
there's a whole big bunch of stuff. It's like, why do a lot of VC funding people require you to go into the Bay Area? The last company I worked for, it was like, yeah, we're going to IPO. And they were like, oh, well, sorry, we want you to be in Santa Clara versus, in Irvine, where you're originally located. Why do they make you move to the Bay Area?
People, a lot of times investors like you in their backyard. They want you to be close. They understand the ecosystem in terms of hiring and just sort of how things work, especially in the Bay Area. It's a bubble, right? Like we are a 50-minute flight from the Bay Area, and you would think we are cross country or something. Right. But I think a lot of it comes down to comfort and just knowing like how things work and where the networks are and the sort of power brokers and the, sort of how recruiting works and how people find employment and things like that. So I think a lot of it is that. And then there's also the sort of dream on the VC side of, you get to swing in and see all the whiteboarding going on and the, hardcore coding going on and sort of see what you've helped build and get to, kind of be more in person involved. So, but I think it's more the former, right? Around they just understand how their neighborhood works, essentially.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I knocked over. I stepped over somebody else's question. Was that you, Ms. Berlin?
Mm-mm.
Okay, Mr. Betcher, how about you?
No, I got nothing.
Okay. Well, you're gonna rule the world someday, sir, with your LogMD. I think that's gonna be a big thing soon.
Well, maybe not soon, but that's the goal.
Right. Speaking of the goal, I just finished listening to that book. That was a very excellent book. Thank you for recommending that one. I also bought Beyond the Goal, I think, which is Dr. Goldrat's additional book after the fact. So learned a lot of things about the theory of constraints, by the way. So that was quite interesting. So, yeah.
Are we doing, we get to do book recommendations?
Oh, please do. If you've got a book recommendation.
I'm a huge book nerd, especially around self-help and leadership and that kind of thing. My top 3 are Essentialism, Extreme Ownership, and Team of Teams.
Team of Teams.
So Essentialism is all about how you focus on fewer stuff to be much more productive in just like life, but certainly talks about work. Extreme Ownership is basically like just, own it. Like if something could have been done better, like don't blame the other person. Like you could have done better. And it's really it's told through stories of Navy SEALs in Iraq, and the audiobook's fantastic because they're listening to, or they're narrating it or whatever.
They're telling their own stories, right?
Yeah, so you can feel it, and Jocko and Leaf are the two names, and then Team of Teams is similar. It's about how we were actually getting our butts kicked in the mid 2000s around in Iraq, the special forces and the military against the insurgents and stuff, and so they really basically had to adopt like agile. In terms of how the military exercised their sort of operating rhythm, and they would basically do scrum stand-ups like every day across thousands of people on these massive video links, and like solve problems literally on the call with like some little analyst in like DC talking to some big commander like real time in front of people to solve a problem versus going through all sorts of chain of command and stuff. And I don't know, it's just really interesting, but they try to tie it back to, corporate world and how we all can perform better. So I could list a ton of other books, but those are my favorite three: Essentialism, Extreme Ownership, and Team of Teams.
Cool. Thank you for, I was trying to remember Essentialism. Cool. I like me some audiobooks, especially when I go out for a walk. I don't have a lot of time to, in addition to podcasts like, Manager Tools, which again, Mr. Betcher turned me on to, we're actually implementing one-on-ones at the office and some of the Trinity bits there that they're doing. And I told my new boss, I was like, look, I've got homework for you. I'm going to manage up a little bit. You're wanting to do one-on-ones, and I think that's great, but you need to do it this way. And here are the 4 podcasts from the Hall of Fame sections, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on doing one-on-ones. I was like, read it, listen to these, and this is the way we need to do it because this is a tried and true method. So Essentialism. I'll put links in the show notes to those 3 books, Amazon links or what have you, or Audible if you use the Audible stuff. So very cool. All right, so Ben, if people wanted to discuss more about VCs or identity analytics or anything having to do with Obsidian-Sec, or if they wanted to get involved with y'all, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I'm at Chicago Ben because that's where I went to school and also used to live there. Have debated whether or not I changed that now that I'm in Southern California. But at Obsidian Sec is our company Twitter, and you can find me on email at ben@obsidiansecurity.com.
Okay, cool. Ben at Obsidian-Sec. So while I'm finishing that up, Ms. Berlin, tell us all about everything that you do. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but let us know what's up.
Everything, just in general, or
yeah, most everything. What size shoe do you wear?
Where do I start?
What size
very
shoe?
large for a small person.
Oh, no kidding! I thought it was only 8.5. We were talking on Twitter today. I was like, I'm not at. I changed my name to not at InfoSister, and everybody's like, "You're not her." And I was like, "Well, she has big shoes to fill, and everything." And yeah, so anyway,
I wear like a 9.5 women's, which
dang.
I'm 5'3", so I don't know how that happened, and I don't know why we're talking about shoes.
It was a Twitter thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's right.
Go ahead.
So like work stuff or
no, your extracurriculars.
Oh, my extracurricular stuff. So I don't know if you saw it. Maybe we're auctioning off a DerbyCon ticket through Health Hackers. So if you know anybody that wants it, you have to guess how many Orbeez were in the kiddie pool that we used at Circle City Con.
Oh wow!
So if you've ever seen Orbeez, they're pretty amazing. They're like the little squishy water beads.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we had a kiddie pool almost full of them.
Wow.
So you have to guess how many was in there and donate money, of course. And then like the person closest wins.
Oh, so I can't put $1,000 in and say you had 1 Orbeez and get the ticket.
No, but you can put $1,000 in and every $10 gets you another guess.
Oh, that's okay. So I already have it. I already have a ticket. I'm good.
Okay, me too.
Okay. But
so yeah, that, and then just like, oh gosh, podcasting, and I'm training with my friend Jeremy. He was on. He did the election security podcast.
That's right.
With us last year.
That's right.
We're training at BSides Cleveland tomorrow.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
That's why I was late because we're working on that currently.
Oh, no, that's cool. So you're doing Hackers Health on Twitter, which is your nonprofit.
Right.
And you're looking for ambassadors to do villages because you have so much need and only a handful of people.
So if Megan and I were both like independently wealthy, we would just travel around and run this village at conferences all the time.
Right.
But we're not, and it would drive us crazy. So there's actually 3 conferences currently that neither of us can do. And we want to put it out there for other people to do. So we're going to try and do this ambassador program. I still only have everything in my head and not really written down.
Got to codify it. You got to codify it. Yep.
Yeah, because I know what I want.
Right.
I just have to let other people know what I want.
Yep.
To run the village without us there, but with our support and kind of under our banner. So
right.
We just semi-launched that the other day. Launching meaning I sent everybody that was interested an email saying I don't have everything written down yet.
Right. Okay. All right. So there are some requirements, but if you are interested in helping out, donating time and effort to running the village, how would people get a hold of you and reach out? So
definitely email volunteer@mentalhealthhackers.org and just mention the ambassador program. We also have regular volunteers if you don't want to run a village, if you want to speak, or if you want to just kind of be in there and hang out. Our DerbyCon CFP is also open. And I think we also have one for 44Con. They're both in September.
Nice.
And we're talking to 4 other villages as well.
Okay, awesome. And your Twitter is @HackersHealth, and your personal Twitter is?
@InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR.
Awesome. Mr. Betcher, how about yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing on the side there.
Well, you can read all about it at log-md.com. I'd like to know where Ben is going to be in the next couple of months, because I ran into you a few times, and you're just a great guy and you're full of knowledge, and I enjoyed our conversations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I got a trip to Chicago, to Iowa. That's where my wife's from. And then I got some stuff coming up in the fall. I think I'm keynoting B-Sides Augusta.
Oh, nice.
And I'll probably hit a whole bunch of other places too. So, but yeah, I'd love to sync up and see if we're going to be in the same place.
Very cool.
Nice.
Mr. Betcher, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to discuss LogMD or just reach out in particular?
Yeah, on Twitter. I keep up with that @BetcherPwned, BOETTCHERPWNED.
Nice. Okay. So Ben, not to make a little segue here, but Seattle's only about 2-hour flight from John Wayne or Burbank. If you fly Alaska Airlines from Burbank, really nice airport, fly all the way up here to Seattle. Do you like camping by the chance?
Yeah, I do.
I have a conference for you that you might want to come to. I'm doing a conference. We are doing a conference. Matt Domko, who used to organize B-Sides Augusta, which was what made me think of you. B-Sides Augusta, Wendy Knox Everett, who is one of my co-workers at Leviathan, but also does a lot of B-Sides villages. She does Lockpick Village at B-Sides Las Vegas. We're on the board of a nonprofit called the InfoSec Education Foundation, of which I'm president and dictator for life. Benevolent dictator, of course. But we're having a conference up here August 24th. If you're wanting to come and camp, or, we've got our CFP going on until tomorrow, the 21st of June. So by the time this airs, nobody will notice. And it'll already be gone. We've got some excellent speakers. We're going to be camping out for 2 nights, so we're going to do things like flying some drones and kites and upscaling s'mores and telling scary blue team stories around the fires. We're looking at doing resume review. We're still looking for workshops, so that probably won't be, they'll still be available. But if you're interested in coming up and camping with us, we have RV. We still have a couple of RV hookups, but we also have tent hookups if you want to. It's right outside of Seattle. Matt Domko, he said our unofficial slogan is, if it sucks, you can still drive home. So, it's not going to suck because I'm not going to let it. But if you're interested in coming out and joining our conference, you can go to HTTPS. We have a TLS site, so www.infosecampout.com, all one word. And we still have spots available. We still have tickets available for the conference. So, come out and camp with us if you are interested. So, we have tents. I mean, you'd have to bring your own tent. So, I mean, that would only, you'd have to get off the plane, go to REI, and then drive.
You don't have to. You don't need a tent. Like, you could just sleep outside.
Yes.
How bad are the mosquitoes there?
We do have some mosquitoes, but I did buy some mosquito netting. I'm actually going to try putting up a tarp with some tarp poles. That's what that plastic, that box back there is. Those are my tarp poles. So I'm going to give it a try on roughing it. We have a big ass tent that we use when we go camping, but I want to see what it's like with a rain fly or something like that instead. So
I'm too old. I need an air mattress.
I have an air mattress. I do an air mattress.
I can't sleep on the ground anymore.
I can't either. No. So. Yeah, we're on Twitter at InfoSec Campout, and ancillary to it, our nonprofit InfoSec Education Foundation. We're still looking for sponsors, so if you're interested in helping us sponsor the campsites, we actually have if you pay us $5,000, you will name the barn where our speakers are going to be talking during the time. So if you're interested in doing that, we'll send you some sponsor levels and stuff like that. So. If you're interested in donating to the podcast, we have a Patreon. Thank you to our sponsors on the Patreon. The podcast is listener supported, and we appreciate everybody who's helping out with that. Our podcast Twitter is at Brakesec. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Brake, and that's it, I think. We have a TPub store where you can get a picture of Ms. Berlin's face on a t-shirt, or you can get one with our Breaking Down Security logo on a coffee mug or whatever you want to do. There's links in the show notes to all of those things. And Ben, thank you always for coming on, being a leader in our area of InfoSec. Obviously a very talented and handsome person, and we appreciate you coming. What did I say that for? Anyway, we appreciate you coming on, and you're always welcome to come back on and discuss anything you'd like. So there you go.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. Really good to connect with all of you again, and I hope we can catch up in person one of these days.
Very cool. All right. Well, that was it for Breaking Down Security here at our world headquarters in Seattle. Everyone have a great week. Be nice to one another. Take care of yourself, because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.